On this play, Kevin Krasinski picks up the puck on the blue line and walks the line to the left side of the ice, as he knows that Bedard is going to trail him, with the goal of shifting the Montreal defense left and then opening up the right side of the ice. However, when Bedard does get the puck, the Montreal defense becomes entirely focused on Bedard. They are well aware that his teammate is wide open in the one-timer spot. They know he could give the puck back to Krasinski, who has open space, but they don't care.
Connor Bedard takes the shot and it's blocked.
Later in the same game, once again on the power play, Bedard feeds Jones, who then proceeds to walk the blue line. However, the Montreal defense doesn't apply any pressure to the Jones point shot. They don't care. Instead, when Bedard gets the puck back, they essentially have 3 defenders committed to be in range of disrupting Bedard's shot.
He'll shoot and be snapped it high.
And in the dying moments of the game with the goalie pulled, Bedard picks up the puck on the blue line and rockets a cross-seam pass to Tyler Johnson, who has full intention of giving the puck right back. This simple play causes defensive pressure to collapse on the goalie, which in turn opens up more space for Bedard up top. But it doesn't matter. Basically, every player in Montreal remains either directly in his shot lane or indirectly in any potential shot lane he can find. Think about who is on the ice here. In the dying moments of a game down a goal, we have a washed up Tyler Johnson. No offense, and Andreas Athanasiou. This is the best Chicago had to offer with the goalie pulled, so they don't care about covering them. Why would they? And no, this is not the Montreal team today. This team was at the bottom of the standings with one of the worst penalty kills in the league. Yet, by simply cheating towards Bedard's shot lane, they were able to shut him down with ease. Because to really put the nail in the coffin of this analysis in terms of Bedard having no options, let's take a look at what happens when they faced off against one of the top penalty kills in the league. On this play, Krasinski picks up the puck and begins to walk the blue line. Tampa Bay sees a wide open Bedard, and they would send 2 guys to disrupt him. All they cared about was taking Bedard out of the play. To the extent that they leave Khrushchev completely wide open with a shot lane, he literally has a good 2 to 3 seconds to load up and pick his corner.
Korchinski swings it off, looking for the redirect and the score!
Which again just shows that Tampa doesn't care about anybody else but Bedard. They don't view them as real threats here. He would single-handedly create this play from the defensive gravity he pulls from being the only real threat. So you might be thinking, well, if Bedard is forcing the defenseman to cheat towards his shooting lanes, which then leaves his teammates wide open, then that itself is a cheat code, one that will surely lead to more assists and points. Chicago had one of the worst power plays in the league, sitting at a 16.6% rate. As it's not like Bedard doesn't pass the puck, he does.
Across Khrushchev!
As this strategy absolutely works when you have other elite scorers who can capitalize on teams cheating the play, but he doesn't. Bedard has had one of the most bizarre starts to his career relative to any other quote-unquote generational can't-miss pick, but the man has no support. Well, at least didn't. Because on this graphic, one that we covered in the past, we can see the point pace of some of the upper echelon prospects on the y-axis, and the x-axis shows the combined point production of the top 5 teammates on each of these players' teams. McDavid had Draisaitl, Taylor Hall, Nugent Hopkins, Eberle. Matthews had Marner, Nylander, Nazem Kadri. You get the point here. Because as a result, Bedard's top 5 scorers on his team had 100, 150 less points produced, and will absolutely impact the production of a star prospect. Why? McDavid gets the puck and starts moving into the slot, forcing the high side defender to get into a shooting lane. Draisaitl is wide open.
Dishes, one-timer score!
It's like clockwork. On this play, after a smooth give-and-go play, McDavid ends up with the puck, Nashville panicking, therefore cheating toward McDavid. Again, somehow loses Draisaitl.
Crosses, Draisaitl, McDavid, Draisaitl, one-timer score!
The point is, when you have multiple high-end threats, especially on the power play, it leads to the ability to push and pull and consistently playmake your way into goals. But if you're on an island, like Bedard was in his rookie season, it's a very simple game plan to shut down the opposing star. Because when he was able to score, a lot of it came from the ability to capitalize off the rush plays and scramble plays. Because when I initially brought up this topic years ago, I had a fair amount of pushback. Many comments on my videos or just in general stating that Bedard just isn't that guy. But my counter argument was his teammates. But that's also a theory, so I get their point. Bedard throughout his first 2 seasons would score some absolutely insane goals hinting towards his superstar upside.
Bedard takes the puck! Score! Bedard! Whoa. How did he do that? For Bedard down low. Bedard! Lacrosse style scores!
Because what's fascinating about Bedard is that he is a one-timer indoor hot zone specialist just like a guy like Draisaitl or Alex Ovechkin, and when he gets into his spot can absolutely make you pay. However, due to having no spacing from his teammates, getting into his scoring spot was next to impossible, as this right here is Bedard's goal scoring location and or heat map from his first 2 seasons. And as we can see, it's kind of all over the place. In his first year, he capitalized more on the slot, in his second, near the right circle, but this is a far stretch away from having a consistent hot zone. For some perspective, right here is Leon Draisaitl's power play heat map. And as you can tell, he does a lot of damage from that lower right circle, as McDavid, Nugent, Bedard are able to constantly find him in that spot. But okay, if you aren't able to develop a consistent hotspot, what do? Well, you score off the rush.
Drop it. Bedard shoots and scores. What a shot.
Oh yeah. Here's Bedard off the stretch. Quick shot, he scores!
They get to come back to him.
Bedard now, Main Street, he scores!
But here's the thing, when you're scoring off the rush, it also means that you aren't necessarily relying on having elite teammates spacing out the ice. Because during Bedard's first 2 seasons, a lot of his goals were off the rush. Off the rush scoring is one of the hardest things to do in hockey, as it means that you're essentially sprinting at full speed while trying to process and predict what the other team is doing in a millisecond. It's also why a player like McDavid is so special, as it is hands down the hardest way to produce offense at the NHL level, as you basically have to take control of the entire ice. And so many of Bedard's goals were from exactly this.
Connor Bedard skates the puck in, Bedard with a shot, he scores!
On top of that, Bedard would have showed that he had a special ability to attack on loose pucks during chaotic scrums and capitalize, which then begs the question, if Bedard was truly being suffocated offensively from having a lack of quality line mates, what would happen if he did? On this play, Burakovsky brings the puck deep on the left wall. Frank Nazar navigates into the slot. Nazar, building off the last season having multiple massive games to start the season, would force the Senators into having to respect the shot. So much so that it would cause chaos in the slot, and Bedard is left wide open.
Across here, Bedard with a shot, he scores!
Not only does the presence of Nazar open up the ice for Bedard, but now that he has an elite playmaking winger to feed him these ridiculous cross-seam passes, not the case with the Tyler Johnson or Anthony Siu on the back nine, but these plays were non-existent in Bedard's first couple seasons. Remember that elite off-the-rush scoring? Starting behind his net, Bedard drives straight up the middle of the ice, using subtle edge work to freeze the defenders on the way up. He then uses the Senators' D-man as a screen.
The puck in, Bedard with a shot, he scores!
Remember how many of his clips from his rookie season? How no opposing team would respect their point shots? It was actually absurd, which then allowed them to focus on Bedard. Look at the difference in pressure here. Chicago still doesn't have that elite offensive defenseman yet, but they definitely have multiple guys who could be that guy. And other teams are now well aware. So instead of giving them all the time and space to shoot from the point, we are now consistently seeing the opposition rushing the defenders. But what this does do is open up so much time and
Here's Connor Bedard all the way across. One-timer, they score!
because when the defenders now feel the pressure to rush the point shot, it opens up so much space down low. It causes panic and a lot of movement within their defensive systems, as this combination now allows elite players to find open seam passes on a far more consistent basis. And when you have guys who can actually put the puck in the back of the net, well, it's going to lead to a lot more goals. It's why guys like Makar, Quinn Hughes, and Hudson are so crucial to their teams and power play systems. This whole time I've been preaching that if you give Bedard a couple guys who can find the back of the net, that his production is going to increase tenfold. He already had that off the rush scoring ability, so now it's just about the cycle game and having a competent power play. And well, we are seeing exactly that. He still doesn't have a Leon Draisaitl or Cale Makar counterpart, so what would happen if he does? As this man went from being seen as a generational bust to being first in the entire NHL in scoring as I'm making this video. I really appreciate a like on this video, and as always, thanks for watching.